Hello, this is Janet from janetsandberg.com, and you're listening to the Phoenix Wisdom Podcast, the weekly show that talks to peers and professionals who open up about their darkest moments when they felt like ending it all, why they didn't, and how they transformed their lives in order to triumph over the darkness and despair. Please remember to subscribe if you'd like to hear more inspiring stories. Hello and welcome to the Phoenix Wisdom Podcast. Today we are joined by Aurora Guzbeth, and she is joining us from almost the other side of the world. And it's amazing that our podcast is reaching people far and wide, and we are having guests from all over the world joining us. Welcome, Aurora. Can you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Janet, for having me on your podcast. I was really intrigued about the theme of your podcast, and I really wanted to be on it. And thank you for having me. Yes, I am born in Romania. In the communist Romania, it was it was a dictatorship, so it was kind of like a repressive regime. And I was growing up in a traumatic environment. My parents were deaf and they didn't understand half of the world. And of course, their raising children methods were not really let's say, the best and the wisest. And I had this troubled childhood when I was a teenager, which um, that was actually a nice time of mine because I started to having friends and being out of my little family, and that was good for me. But still, I was troubled. I was traumatized. Yeah. So when I was 24, I moved to Austria. I lived there 30 years. I made everything which I could ever imagine doing. Like I wanted to build a company. I did it. I wanted to travel the world. I did it. I wanted to marry and have a child. I did it. So it's like I fulfilled all my dreams. And but that was uh, all. It was after I had this life transformation experience when I was so close to end my life. So I was like, I'm so glad I didn't do it because I said I had such a wonderful life since then, and it was filled with a lot of joy and happiness. And even now, I moved to the Happy Islands. That's what it's called. The Canary Islands is the Happy Islands, and I think yes, this is life is about being happy, you know.
It
So
is.
yeah, that's in a nutshell my life.
All
Yeah.
right. Yeah, definite highs and lows and everything in between. So let's go back to not the very beginning, but when you were thinking about ending your life, what exactly was going on then?
Yeah,
Aside from
as I
just
said, I
general
was
trauma in the country you were living in.
yeah, I was everything. But basically, I was a teenager, and I with 16 I had a boyfriend, which the relationship was really kind of like roller coaster and not so um, not the way I would have wanted it. And one day he decided that he wants to have sex with me, and he even forced himself on me. It wasn't really a rape, but it was very bad for me. I didn't
Mhm.
feel very loved, and
Yeah.
it was very for me. That was let's say that's the drop that fills the cup. You know, like
Hmm.
I was traumatized, but I wasn't like thinking of it. I had this. They were calling me melancholic because at that time the PTSD and all these things they were not even mentioned. So
Yeah.
it's like evidently being traumatized. I was having this, but yeah, depressions. But they were not labeled like that. So I didn't have professional help. You know, we the kids, you know, we were just like doing our own stuff to heal in a sense to
Yeah.
cope with the things. So when this and I really I was very in love with this guy. So him doing this to me, um, it was for me like this. I just don't want to be in this evil world anymore. It was just like even my closest people, which I love the most, you know, like my parents, they were beating me. My boyfriend, he's forcing me. I just felt um, I don't want to be here anymore. I just don't want to. And I was living very close to a river, and right next to a bridge over this river. And this bridge was a special one because they were having it was an installation for creating electricity.
Okay.
So it wasn't just a bridge over the river, but the river had this. It has a lot of turbulence in there, a lot of rocks, a lot of places where people actually, if they fell off that bridge, they died, but only if somebody was not around. So if somebody jumped off the bridge, because people actually in summer they would jump off the bridge
Oh
in the
my
water, and
gosh.
yeah. And if they didn't come up, then people went after them, so they saved them, and only then they died if nobody was around for a few hours, right? And so I knew that if I would jump off the bridge, it's not a very high bridge. But it was the danger which is down there. It would be very easy for me to just finish, and it's not a big. I'm not doing a big mess, you know. I
Yeah.
don't. No, nobody from my family finds me dead or something. I was really particular about this, you know. It's like I was like
Yeah.
thinking, what is the after, you know? And I thought,
Yeah.
oh yeah, after somebody finds my body in the river, and that's it. Yeah, that's kind of like neutral. So I was planning this, but I mean, sincerely, I cannot remember being depressed about this. I was actually very clear, like I'm planning this, I'm doing this, and I was like finding out the because I from my windows I would see the bridge, and I just observed that at what times people are not on the bridge and all these things. So very calculated. I didn't even plan to write a farewell note. Nothing. Just go out, you know. And so I said, okay, I knew the time, I knew the when I should be there, and I sneak out. It was in the night, of course, and I go to the bridge. I go to that place which I know if I jump here, I'm done. And but before I jumped, I thought I check again if really nobody's here, because as I said, if somebody sees me and jumps after me, it saves me. You know,
Yeah.
it's not I have to be in that water and hurt for a while to
Yeah.
be. So it wasn't a deep river. It's just like really had to be a lot of things happening to somebody to really die there. So I look up, and at the end of the bridge I see this guy, you know, exactly under a lamp, just staring at me. And I just felt his stare. I'm thinking, whoops. Well, then I wait until he leaves. And I leave, and he stayed there motionlessly. Like he wasn't moving, he was just standing there staring at me. He was dressed in something gray. You know, it was a chilly night, so he needed some kind of jacket, but it wasn't winter time. So I can't even remember what season was. But anyway, it was chilly. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm waiting. And he was waiting. And I thought, so stupid, you know? It's like, okay, I won't do it today. I just go home and I will wait for another day when maybe this guy is not here. And so I didn't go the next day. I just waited a few days, and I just picked up someday, random. I go up, and I stop at that place where I could jump. And because I remembered that guy was looking at me, I looked at the lamp, and guess what? The guy was there. I thought, how in the world this can happen? I mean, am I hallucinating? So I
Mm.
went down. I just checked. The guy was there. It was a guy standing there. He was looking at me. So I went. So I'm like, okay. So obviously it doesn't has no sense for me to go back on the bridge because the guy is here. So he watched me as I walk away. I'm thinking, okay, I wait for some more. So maybe 2, 3 weeks. And I was so I really I cannot even remember what happened between those times
Yeah.
in my life. I mean, obviously I was going to school or doing, I have no idea. It was like because I was so focused, I'm going on the bridge and jump. It's just the matter of the guy not being there. And I go. I think it was a few weeks later. I go up again. So it was like my thing was not resolved, and I didn't even want to find help to solve my trauma because I was like, I don't even care. This world is rotten and evil. I just don't want to be here anymore. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I don't, it's like I didn't even ask for question for help. So if I would have actually committed suicide, I would have been like, what? What? I mean, who? Aurora? It's like she's the most jovial person and she's cracking up jokes and she's popular. Like she committed suicide. This is insane. Like I'm sure this would have been the end of it.
Hmm.
So, but I was inside. It was like two people. I was just
Yeah.
cut, and so I go up the third time, and I walk around the bridge to see that the guy is not there. I said, okay, nobody's here. Okay, I walk up the bridge. I look, the guy is not there. I'm like, yay! And then in that moment, the guy starts walking on the bridge behind me, back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, where did he come from? Where did this guy come from? And he didn't say a thing. He was just looking at me and walking back and forth. And I was like, I just have to back up a bit. A few years ago, like when I was about 13, 14, um, I decided to believe in God. I decided to have this exchange, which I learned from a priest. Jesus came to die for my sins, and in exchange, he gives me eternal life. I'm like, oh, that's a good exchange. So I did that when I was 13. I was like, okay, I give you all my sins, and I have eternal life. So when I die, I will come to heaven. And that was my own understanding about the whole thing about salvation. So I'm there on the bridge and me with the conviction, okay, when I die, I come to heaven, right? So I
Hmm.
pray. I said, God, get this guy off my back because I want to come home. I had enough of this evil world. I don't want to be here anymore. And in that moment, a voice in my head, I know now it's the voice of God, but that was the first time I heard that. It was such a soothing voice. He said, I know that you want to come home, but your work on this earth is not done. And I promise you, you come home. But now, go with peace, peace. And in that moment, I cannot explain. Such a deep peace came upon me. Nothing, like absolutely nothing was bothering me anymore. Like all this pain, it was like not important. I had a deep peace. I had joy. And I knew, I had this conviction that I'm okay. I will be taken care of, And it was, I just cannot describe. It was maybe like I felt like I'm getting saved again, because at the first time when I did this exchange, I felt like I'm floating. I was looking at my feet like, am I touching the ground, And this was again such a elevating experience for me. Like, I am okay. I will be okay, and I'm taken care of, and I have something to do, and I will be home. I will be going home when it's done. So I was mesmerized. I stood there for, I don't even know how long. I just stood there, and as I turned to walk away, I look around, and that guy was gone. I could have jumped. That was my first thought. Like, great, now I could jump, but I knew
Wow.
I will not. So ever since, if somebody asked me, did you ever see an angel? I say I did,
Mm-hmm.
because it is impossible for somebody to be right there all the time when I want to jump, and then to disappear when I don't want to
Yeah.
jump anymore, you know.
Yeah.
And it was so. I mean that last experience, like last time I was on the bridge, that gave me such a power, such a strength, and to go through all the trauma. Of course, I broke up with my boyfriend, and I just cut him off. I'm like, no, I'm not going to be friends with somebody who's violent. And I was, especially because, I mean, most of the time they say if you experience violence in your childhood, then you're kind of like um, going toward it, and you have partners who are violent, and you just go into this cycle. But somehow I did not. I was I was running away from violence. If somebody got violent with me, I would just like, no, I'm going the other direction. Bye. So I was seeking actually the I was seeking peace. I was seeking this healing environment. So this is also why I left the country and I went to Austria, um, where it was absolutely different for me, and I was really I started healing. It took a long time. I'm still healing of traumas, but I still had this that peace, that assurance that I have a work to do, and I will be home. I'm gonna go home when it's done. That never left me. Absolutely never left me. But it doesn't mean that, I mean, my suicide thoughts did come back. I had I just had a compelling image of me putting a knife myself in my heart, and
Oh my
that was like
gosh.
this, and it just didn't go away, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And of course, I never did that, obviously, because I
Yeah.
had this other thing which was much stronger. But now I think it was the enemy wanting me to stop myself from doing the work I came here
Yeah.
for, because once you have suicidal thoughts, you have this, you allow these thoughts to have place in your head,
Mm-hmm.
and they would come back and back. This was my perception of this. I did not speak with anyone about this because I didn't want to like people to hide all the knives from me or something. I was a cook. I was doing catering.
Oh
I was
gosh.
using one of knives. So I mean, I couldn't risk for somebody to say, oh, you're at risk. And so I'm like, I didn't tell anyone. And by the time I told somebody, they said, this is the thing, this is your enemy. This is your enemy, which doesn't want you to do what you're supposed to do. So yeah, that's the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing. And just, I mean, the way you tell the story too is just so, it just makes you think. And immediately what I thought of when you were talking about the man under the street lamp was in the movie It's a Wonderful Life. I don't know if
Yeah,
you, yeah, where, it's that Christmas movie, the old black and white
I
Christmas
know
movie
the
with
movie.
Jimmy
Yes.
Stewart, and there's the little angel that comes and saves him, and it's very similar to that story. And that's just what I thought was like, oh, like he's there for a reason.
Yes.
And whether he was a real person, maybe he was a neighbor who kept watch on the bridge, and when he saw somebody standing there, he'd come down, like it could have been a real person. Maybe it was an angel. Um, and whatever the case was, I mean, he did his job, and
Yes, it
it
did.
worked. And then you hearing that voice, that divine voice, and just the wash of
Yes.
peace coming over you. It Yeah. And that conviction that, you're here for a reason. Um, it's
Yes.
just beautiful. And we are all here for a reason. We all have
Obviously.
something to
And
do in this life.
yes, I really think that this suicidal thoughts are in a sense, it's in the spiritual world, they are sent out. It's like a broadcast. It's like a radio broadcast. If
Mhm,
you tune in, you're hearing it. If you don't, you don't hear it.
mhm, yeah.
You know?
And it's true. And we've talked about this with other guests as well, that, once you've been there, it's so easy to go back. Like you've had those thoughts once, and when things get rough again, they come back. And
Yes.
it's kind of something that, and like you said, once you've opened that channel,
Yes.
it kind of stays open unless you
Yes.
consciously choose to close it, and get your life in a place where you don't need those thoughts anymore, because everything is
Yes.
great. So
Exactly. Yes.
yeah, which it
Yes.
sounds like you were able to do. You moved and you built a business and you built a family, and
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that doesn't mean that, as I said, the thoughts would come back, you know, and because I did, and that was for me strange because every time the thoughts were coming back and they were stronger and stronger and stronger, I would like, no, I'm not. It's like, forget it. It's not. It does. I'm not going there. You know. Very soon after, somebody in my somebody who I knew, somebody close or far from me, committed suicide, and I would hear about this. Oh, this person just committed suicide, and that would hurt me so much because I thought so. It was the same thought, but they acted upon it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I was so sad about this because I could not do anything about because I didn't know who is the one who else is listening to these thoughts, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't just say, hey guys, I'm having suicidal thoughts. If anybody else has, this is my message to you, because I didn't know in from the which direction will that come, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I just started when I had these thoughts, I was just starting to pray for the people around me, people I knew, people in the area to just have courage to stand up and not do what the thoughts are telling them to do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's uh, I don't know if I had success, you know, but definitely after I would do this, you know, with praying and everything, and the thoughts will leave. I didn't hear anybody around me that committed suicide. So obviously it did have some effect, but I couldn't I wouldn't be able to bring someone that says to say, okay, this guy or this girl, because I prayed, you know, they
Right.
stopped
Yeah.
whatever. So that's a bit of success which I see, you know, I'm helping others to not act upon these thoughts, you know,
Yeah.
and So, but sometimes I still have this, of course, here on this happy island, they're not really present. Everybody's happy here, you know. It just,
Amazing.
it's amazing for me. It's also, I'm here for a year now, and I feel how my soul is healing more and more of the trauma, and understanding how um, life is, it's so much more than being occupied or holding onto a trauma, where all your energy is hold on to, because you are just holding on to something which you cannot do anything anymore about it, you know.
Hmm.
And I think mostly when people want to commit suicide, it's about things which happened until then that they cannot really do something about, and
Yeah.
they maybe feel frustrated or fed up or something. I mean, I don't think anyone who wants to commit suicide, it's like, I will show them, I will cause them, I will cause everybody else around me harm, and make them have pain, because I, you know, they just themselves, they're crumbling under pressure of something which they perceive as being too much for them,
Hmm. Yeah.
and they see
It's
no
like we don't
solution. And
we don't see another way out. Like
yes,
this is the only way that all of this terrible stuff is going to end is if I end myself.
yes, and this
Yeah.
is really sad, because that, I mean, it almost means that they really don't care about anyone, not even of themselves, and that that is the most hurtful thing, because Jesus said, "Love yourself, love your neighbor like you love yourself." And if you want to end your life, then what kind of uh, in what way do you show yourself that you love yourself if you are killing yourself?
Hmm.
Like murdering, killing somebody. It's a sign of hating. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, and in a lot of cases, that's how we feel that, we don't love ourselves. We're feeling worthless and undeserving and that we're a burden to everybody around us. So sort of that's the natural progression is that everybody would be
Yes.
better off without me here. Um, so in a weird sort of twisted way, it almost feels like an act of love because we're relieving those around us of the burden that we are,
Yes,
even though
but
that
it's
is
it's
absolutely completely untrue. And those around us absolutely want us to be here and be our
yes,
best selves. And sometimes I love your example because you're like, this place is where I'm living is kind of the source of everything that is wrong. So I'm going to move. And that takes so much courage and so much bravery and so much clarity to see that I can do all the healing work that I want. But as long as I'm still surrounded by all of these things that are beyond my control, there's only so far I can go with my health. So
yes,
let's go somewhere else where the surroundings are more healthy. And you
yes.
just keep upgrading all the time
Right.
till
Like
you
one
landed
of
on the
the
happy island.
yes. I mean, the thing is, I'm sure that they have also tragedies here. I hear people screaming,
Of
but
course.
the thing is, I don't understand the language. That helps a lot. That
It
helps
does. It does.
amazing. I mean, of course, I started to learn Spanish, but it's they speak so many dialects here. So even if I would understand some word, I don't understand everything. So uh, it's really I'm away. I don't use. What I also found that it would bring me down. It would bring me low. It was listening to the news. So I'm not doing that anymore.
Hmm.
For the last 30 years, I did not listen to any news. I mean, I didn't put on the news to watch the news for half an hour every day. Like I did not.
Yeah.
Of course, I am having the news. If someone, I just I just stopped like cold turkey, because I said, okay, this is affecting me. I'm feeling depressed, negative. I'm feeling bad, and I don't want this feeling. So if this makes me feel bad, then I will stop it. So I stopped cold turkey. And even somebody like after 2 days, like, did you watch the news yesterday? I'm like, no. And they're like, why? It's like, is something wrong with your TV? I'm like, no, I decided not to watch the news anymore. And somebody even asked me like, and how will you find out if something happens, which is important to you? I said, well, I will trust that the things which are important to me will happen. I will find out, you know?
Mm-hmm. And you
And then,
do.
yeah. And the funny thing, the person told me like, yeah, that you should have watched the news yesterday because this and this happened, and this woman was murdered and blah blah, you know. And I'm like, oh, thank you for telling me, you know. And then the things happened like that I met. Uh, long story short, I actually a few days later I met the son of the murdered woman, and I had a chat with him, and he was like telling me like, you know, how he feels and everything, and I'm like, I'm so sorry that it's only like how many days, like 5 days since your mom died, and she was murdered, and it was. I'm like, yeah, I know about this, you know. And I was thinking, wow, I mean, I really needed that piece of news, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I didn't watch the news, but that guy just told me, and I needed it because I had this interaction with with the son of the murdered woman. So it wasn't like, you know, I mean, you can imagine what his reaction if I would have said what. It's like I have no idea. So it really helped me, and I said, this is it. I'm not going to watch anything because the news which I need to know, it will come to me, no
Yes.
matter how weird it is. And I do it since for 30 years. I'm much more happier. And really, the things which I need to know, I know. I
Yeah.
found out about Corona. I didn't have to watch the news.
Yes. Yeah. I did
So
the same
it's
thing.
like,
I never watched the news. My parents would watch, the 10 o'clock news
yeah,
every night or whatever. And I just it was not something that I enjoyed. So I never did. And now, of course, it's a lot easier. You get news snippets on social media and, people
yes.
talk about it. But people, yeah, were like, what do you mean? Like, how do you know? It's like, you just know. Like, if it's important, people talk about it. So
Exactly. And
that's all I
even
need to know. I don't need to subject
yes,
myself to that much negativity and the images and
yes,
the live the video clips of what's happening right now when people are in those terrible situations. Like I don't need that energy
yes,
coming into my life. I don't need to see it to understand that it's happening. So yes,
exactly. Yes.
good. So yeah, I just um my brain, this is what happens to me. I have like 20 million questions all coming to me at the same time, and then I'm just like, I don't know what to ask. um yeah, I see. So for our listeners, Aurora and I are on Zoom, so I have these conversations sort of face to face with people and I can see them. You only get the audio. But she has a screensaver behind her with a book that she has written. So take a moment and tell us about your book, please.
Yes, I am I'm writing books since I ever started to write. I learned to write, so I am writing I was writing all kinds of stuff, fantasies and everything. And actually, I came here to this island to write my books, to publish my books. And funny enough, this book, Make Your Time Matter, it's not a fiction. It's not a fantasy. It's just a self-help book, you
Mm-hmm.
know, to understand exactly this thing, like what I learned from the beginning, that I have a purpose. We have a purpose, and our time on this earth matters. it is important how long are we here and what are we doing here. So it's not just we are here and we go kindergarten, school, we job, then we retire, and then we die. This is like, it's flat. We are here for something specific, which our soul knows.
Yes.
And it gets like all buried under conceptions, culture, expectation of the society, of the family, of the parents, and nobody's asking you. I mean, who would ask a child, why are you here? They would think the child doesn't know, but the child does know.
Oh, of course they do.
It
They're
just-
more
it
in
just
tune with their souls than we are as adults.
Exactly. And the way we find out is like, actually the child is always communicating that. And the hidden communication is the answer to the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we usually ask the 5-year-olds or like 7-year-olds, and they are saying sincerely, and of course it's like policeman, a fireman, a doctor, but behind this, I mean, this is the image they can explain to the adults so that the adults would understand. But behind this is like, I'm here to rescue something, I'm here to help somebody, I'm here to fight for the righteousness, I'm here for, and there's something, we need to give words to this purpose, because the soul knows but doesn't have the words. Yes. So this is my and most people, which especially mothers and everybody's like, I have no time, I'm stressed, I'm in stress of time, I need to better manage my time. So I actually did a course on time management. Nobody showed up.
Like, so they're too busy.
I mean, ignoring is worse than any criticism. Yes. Is the worst thing. I went through the deepest valley, and then I just said to a friend of mine, I could write a book about this, and she's like, then write it. And because I write so much, I wrote the book in 2 weeks. I finished in 2 weeks. In other 2 weeks, it was correctly published and everything, is done. And it became a bestseller on Amazon. So it's but basically this is the way, like the path, find your purpose, dig deep and go back before trauma and find what is your purpose to be here, and work toward it. Yes. And even if it feels like far-fetched, your soul will not be at rest until you don't get there. Exactly. Like, since I was, as I said, since I know how to write, I was inventing writing, working on this, like how to write a book, and everybody told me, you won't earn any money with that, do anything else, and actually just a few months ago it just dawned to me, the answer to this, you won't earn anything with, fill in the blanks, whatever your soul wants. The thing is, did I ever say I want to earn money with my books? I just said I want to write books.
Yes. Yeah.
And whatever happens with that, it's not in my control. But this is my makeup. This is my urge. This is my compelling thing I need to do.
You just have to do it. Yeah. Just because you want to do this with your life doesn't mean it has to be your primary source of income.
Yes. So
you can have a job and you can,
exactly.
do this and follow your soul's calling. Your soul's calling doesn't have to be your job. Yes. Ideal if you can make that happen. But, you can also just have a regular job and do what you love doing on the side with your free time. Yes.
So I did get inspired. It was there's a book, there's a writer who the doctors told him he was only 6 months to live because he had cancer. And his dream was to write one book before he dies. So he used these 6 months to write the book. And he did. And since then he wrote 37 books, because actually he didn't die of cancer.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
I forgot his name, but I was so inspired, and this is also inspiring me to tell people, and also I'm doing coaching about this. Don't be afraid to think, oh, I'm too old, it's too late. You
Hmm.
know, I want
Never too
always wanted
old,
to be
never too
this, and
late.
it's forget it. It's just too late. No, because the moment you step into that which you're made for, you're born for, your soul revives. You start to glow. Basically, you glow from inside because
Hmm.
you are uh, fulfilling that which you are here for.
Hmm.
And it doesn't have to be something huge. It can be you are here to do the best cleaning job you ever do, because you want to be a cleaning person. Like I remember I finished 4 universities. I have 2 university degrees and 2 bachelors. Like I finished college,
Okay.
like college. So I have 4 degrees, and I just had this. I don't know. I can't say urge, but I had this impulse. I want to work in a bakery. I really want to work in a bakery. Like my parents were handyman. Like they were working with their hands, very
Right.
very talented,
Yes.
right? So, and I was doing all this. I did computer programming. I did teaching. I did like nothing with my hands. I mean, with the teaching, I could do the materials for the children, but it's like nothing with not work earning money with my hands, working with
Hmm.
my hands. I wanted to work in a bakery because I love to work with food, and so I wanted to work in a bakery. Of course, my income cut was like I was earning 30% of what I was earning before. But
Hmm.
my happiness gauge went like over. I
Yeah.
was so happy. I was so satisfied. Waking up in the middle of the night, going to the bakery, smelling that amazingly fresh
Mm.
bread smell, and serving people and giving them everything they wanted, pastries and bread. And it was, I did that 7 years. It was, I think, the most amazing 7 years of my life. Of course, it was hardship. It was sometimes it was too much or something, but still, just give me fresh bread smell, and all my pain is away, is gone away. And I got to work with my hands, and that
Hmm.
was for me so great. My parents cried about it. I had friends who stopped talking to me. They didn't even want to recognize me on the street because I did that. I thought how amazingly people relate somebody to what they are doing
Hmm.
instead of commanding them of you are doing something which makes you happy, and this is the
Yeah.
best thing, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So
Yes. And just a word that if you don't know what your soul wants, and after ignoring our souls for so long, sometimes it's hard to uncover it and figure out what makes you happy. And we've talked about this on the podcast as well. But like happy, it's such a foreign feeling to those of us with depression, and
yeah,
following our joy. We don't even know what that means anymore. But if that's the case, then yeah, find a coach. And there are coaches like Aurora, like myself, who specialize in uncovering your soul's purpose. And we all do it a
exactly.
little bit differently, but there are tons and tons of people out there who can help you figure out what your soul wants and why you're here, and
Yes,
why you kept going and why you should
yes,
keep going.
and also about coaches, I want to say one thing. My conviction is that every one of us has a treasure inside.
Yes.
We have a treasure inside, which we cannot take out ourselves. There has to be another person who is digging deep and taking it out. If you have a coach which is not doing that, then look for another coach, because
Yes.
there is this, not everybody can do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to the suicidal thoughts, I do believe now that somebody who has suicidal thoughts forgot their sole purpose. They don't have any clue of what their place in this world is, because they forgot,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nobody around them who can remind them
Mm-hmm.
about this. Like
Yes.
there is we not only have our own, like we know ourselves, but we also get witnesses along the years who are telling us, you should do this, you should do this, you're good at this, you should do this. And these little clues, if you don't get them, like when I was 17, when I was at the bridge, I didn't have in my environment anybody who would give me clues. Wow, you're doing good. Actually, I did that. I had that until I was 15, because I was in a school where we had literature contests, and I was writing, I was giving in, I was getting prizes. But my parents would belittle them, because they would say, no, 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 you're not going there. You're getting prizes for your literature, because you're composing things. No, that's nothing. No, we don't want that. So I actually forgot, because even if I had clues, I forgot, because there were so many enemies around against it.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody who is thinking suicide don't have these things, don't have the clues, or forgot the clues. They forgot their purpose, and they forgot that their soul has a yearning for something else, not what they have in life. And they need help. They need somebody. They just need to find someone who digs out the treasure, just gives them a
Yes.
clue,
Yes.
and that would be just enough. So this is I wish if anybody has such thoughts, that God would send them somebody, that the God would make them to listen to this podcast or something, to understand that there is something beyond suicide. There's life beyond. There's life after suicide. you
There
know.
is life after suicidal thoughts, and joy
Yes.
and happiness also.
Exactly. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story today, and yeah, uh, telling us about all of your ups and downs, and your book, and your wisdom. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Remember that you are loved, you are worthy, you are valuable, you are meant for more, and that it really does get better. If you are in crisis, there are numbers that you can call or text to get the help that you need. That information for Canada and the US is in the description below each episode. If you are in immediate crisis, please call 911. We love you, and I hope you'll listen again.